Welcome back to the snack room. Today we have a very special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Sheryce Watson. I am so excited to be here. I'm a menopause wellness coach, and I think we're going to talk about how cannabis helps women in menopause.
All right. So what has your journey with cannabis been like?
Well, it's been a roller coaster because menopause is a roller coaster. And so when I was really in the trenches of it, I wasn't using cannabis. I
Hmm.
stumbled across it and wow, it was an amazing change. Once I stumbled across it, how that happened was in 2017, someone gave me a brownie that was
Oh, okay.
laced with cannabis for my birthday.
Okay.
And I had really been going through a very hard time prior to that. And when I ate that brownie, I realized almost immediately how it could help with every symptom I was struggling with.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was immediate relief. And that's very surprising because these symptoms were very debilitating, like hot flashes, mood swings, depression, anxiety. And you all know that these are symptoms that cannabis can help you with.
Yeah.
Uh,
No,
but I didn't know it at the time until I stumbled on it.
Is there before you stumbled, someone gave you a brownie that was infused? Had you used cannabis like before, like maybe when you were younger or anything like that you experimented with in the past and just kind of let it lie when like in your youth or what?
I did as a teenager,
Yeah.
unbeknownst to my parents.
Mm-hmm.
I did use cannabis back then and into adulthood. But once I was introduced to or became affiliated with a religious entity, I let it go because I felt like this is not acceptable to the church. I know it. So
Yeah.
so I didn't use for many years, like probably 20 years.
Yeah.
I didn't use at all.
Sure.
And so when I started going through menopause, I didn't know that that could help me because I had let it go. So it was very surprising when I
Yeah.
got that brownie, and it was like, wow, it was very eye opening.
Yeah, and you know what's that's actually something that I don't think we've talked about very much. Like one of those barriers or blockades. Everyone knows like the war on drugs and all this, like the past and stuff, but like not a lot of. It's not even something that I think about very regularly. Where the religion side of it has like impacted or like put some sort of blockade on folks exploring this route for alternative medicine use, So I didn't, it's something that definitely has never been mentioned here with like people we've been talking to. So I didn't even think about things like that.
Have you ever heard people call it the devil's lettuce?
Yeah,
See, and I don't
that
know
I've
where
heard
that
of.
I've heard that. And so, a lot of people may be out there thinking that. And, there's a lot of reasons that cannabis is put in a bad light.
Yeah,
And honestly, I think a lot of it has to do with racism, but that's a whole nother podcast episode. Probably.
yeah. Now we know when you start looking at the war on drugs and things like that, exactly what you're talking about. Like you see like the areas impacted and yeah, there's a direct connection to exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
So
no
you got
doubt
a lot
about
of
it.
things going against people trying something that's good for them. You have religion, racism, stigma that if you smoke cannabis all day, you're just lazy.
Well, I don't think it would be put here for no reason. Everything here has a purpose, everything on earth. And I think that it's just a medicine from the earth.
And it says that in the Bible.
Yeah.
It says there's a time and place for everything. So if
Hmm.
you're using religion or religion is the reason you're saying, I'm not going to try it.
That's your
Well, look in the
blockade.
Bible, it says there's a time and place for everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So, were you struggling very badly with menopause before you found cannabis use for it?
Absolutely, I was.
Yeah.
And the most debilitating symptom for me was, well, there was actually three, and they piled on each other. There was sleep deprivation, depression, and low libido.
Okay.
So Low libido, that's something that I struggle with, but I have a husband, so
Yeah.
he struggled right along with me,
Right.
and when you have that symptom, it also makes you feel less than a woman. Like, I'm in this marriage and I'm not participating as I should, but I don't know how to change that. I don't know how to fix it,
Hmm.
you know. So those were three of the symptoms, but I had a plethora of symptoms. I think I probably experienced every symptom known to
Wow.
womankind.
Oh, wow. So, since you've discovered Greenpoint and dispensaries, products that are out on the market, what have you found that's helped you specifically?
Well, I usually stick with if two two strains, sativa and indica,
Mhm.
and in the day I use my sativa, and in
Mhm.
the evening I switch to the indica. Now I know there's hybrids and all that. I just have specific things that I use for, so I want to make sure that those things are taken care of. But as far as like for my low libido, like we were talking before about how to approach the person at the dispensary agent,
Mhm.
and I have recently been doing that,
Mhm.
because I realize there's so many different intricacies with the plant, so
Mhm.
much that there's so many areas that it can help with that I don't even know about yet. So
Okay.
I talked to the dispensary agents, especially Mike, and he's been so helpful to me, figuring out things that are good for certain things.
Okay.
Good.
What's one of the products that you've tried that you're just like, wow, this is everything. I need this all the time.
Well, I recently started using the concentrate, and I hadn't been using that before because I was a little afraid that it might be too strong,
Mhm.
but I wanted to use it in a recipe for suppository,
Okay.
vaginal suppository for dryness.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I made some
Okay.
myself with the concentrate,
Mhm.
and that's been amazing.
That probably relieves a lot of pressure around
Amazing.
the area as well.
Yes.
Okay.
And the fact of the matter is that if you know anything about the endocannabinoid system, you know that we already produce
Right.
in our bodies and we have receptors
Mhm.
in the vaginal area.
Right.
And so when I learned that, I was like, okay, I'm going to make some suppositories and see how that does, and I made sure that I found out the right oils that would not hurt me,
That was going to be
because
my next question is what oils do you
Natural.
use for
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
yeah,
get
because
it.
I didn't want to mess anything up,
I
Uh-huh.
get it.
So when it's like coconut oil,
Right.
cocoa butter, what else did I put in it? Coconut oil, cocoa butter, hyaluronic acid, just a
Okay.
little bit,
Okay.
collagen. I
Oh,
mean, and
collagen, that's
these,
smart.
because you know that, well, you may not know that estrogen loss also can cause your pelvic floor to just not work properly.
Oh.
So these are the things I had in mind, and so now this concentrate is my go-to.
Good.
Okay.
That's yeah.
That's, you bring up stuff like that, and that's what it is, like using these, however you're using with what you got going on, the oils, the concentrates, making your own infusions for what you have going on. But that's what like the whole point of this is, right? Like we have our endocannabinoid system, and then we're inputting like an external source of cannabinoids
Hmm.
and putting them into our bodies to promote balance where like we might be lacking. So exactly everything you're talking about makes so much sense, right? Like getting balance, like even in our reproductive organs and things like
Right.
that,
Yeah.
getting balance back to where we should be, though, just to promote this a better living or a better well balance of life and things like that in all areas, right? For some
Hmm.
Mhm.
people it might be like we see a lot of folks that can't sleep at night, right? Like,
Right.
and like adding these external cannabinoids to get a healthier night's sleep, or pain relief, right? This adding the external cannabinoids to encourage balance in our endocannabinoid systems.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Right. Because when estrogen starts to leave the body, and this happens for women when they get maybe in the late 30s,
Mm.
early 40s, when estrogen starts to leave the body, the endocannabinoid system starts to go whack.
Yeah.
And it's these are the things that it controls: mood and stress response, pain and inflammation, sleep and circadian rhythm, metabolism and appetite control, hormone balance, and memory and cognitive function.
Wow, I already have problems with all of those, so I'm really looking forward to this.
So imagine that you're losing estrogen as a woman and these things start going out of whack.
And everything you just said, cannabis, we know
Yeah.
from just being on the floor every day, talking to people on the other side of the counter, can help out with everything.
Everything.
So,
Mhm.
And I discovered it by accident. And, at the time when I discovered it, it wasn't legal in Maryland.
Yeah.
So,
2017, you were close.
Yeah, so close.
We were
So,
close.
so that's a problem too. But for
Yeah.
a lot of people that live in an area that it's not legal in.
Right.
And
You know?
that's something we've definitely talked about. Like me, like we all got started dealing with cannabis well before it was legal in
Yeah.
our state. Everyone got started somewhere in the past. Everyone came from the black gray market, right? And like now everyone can feel strong, like where we're at
Yes.
now, right?
Mhm.
Like we're on the right track. We're on the right track. But yeah, for you saying that before it was legal in Maryland, like a lot of our stories started well before, even
Mhm.
medical cards, and now we're finally adult use, or where it's like really, a lot of leniency here. But yeah, all of us started before 2018 or 2017 when they launched the medical market, right? Like, well before that, we all started in this really weird place where like I could
Right.
get in serious trouble
I
for it.
could, but
Yeah.
there was a need. And
Yeah.
so, hey, I'm willing to risk it because
No.
Yeah. When you use it in a suppository vaginal way, do you still get like psychoactive effects from it that way?
absolutely.
And is it a little bit more intense? Because that's what I would think.
is.
Okay.
It is. It was amazing.
Okay.
And I didn't even expect that. Like, I just really was looking for lubrication, and I think because I used the concentrate, though, it was really potent. So that's something that people can play around with. If you're afraid to, experience really
Intense.
psychoactive,
Yeah.
you can put less in. You don't have to use concentrate. You could just do other ways.
Do you know what form of concentrate you use? Like
It was
butter,
shatter.
Oh, it was shatter.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I have a double boiler, and
Okay.
I put all the beeswax. I forgot that ingredient. I
Okay.
Beeswax pellets for the firmness.
Okay.
And beeswax is good. Don't worry, it's good for the vajayjay.
Okay.
Good to
It's
know.
natural. It's natural. And
Yeah.
so the first batch I made didn't turn out firm enough. So
Mhm.
I did have to get the pellets. I had some beeswax, but I got the pellets for the second batch, and it came out a lot firmer.
Mhm.
So yeah. And then there's the cocoa butter, coconut oil. I did put some full spectrum CBD in too.
Oh, nice. I love that. I
Yeah.
love
So
love
it had
that.
the full spectrum CBD
Whole entourage
and
effect.
the shatter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love that.
Good for you.
Where did you find the full spectrum CBD?
I think I went to My Organic Market.
Okay.
Mom's.
Oh,
It wasn't
Mom's.
cheap.
Oh, I bet.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you found what works. Good for you.
Mhm.
Yes, it's awesome. And so what I did was I made a ebook with the recipe in it.
Oh,
So it's
yeah,
out on
definitely drop
Beacons AI.
Good for you.
Beacons
It's
AI.
called High, Happy, and Hydrated.
I love that.
Happy and hydrated. Oh my God. I love that.
That's
the name
exactly
of the
how I want to
ebook.
be all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the name of the ebook I created for the cannabis, the suppository recipe. So
Okay.
anybody can buy it and make it on their own if they wanted to.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's where you were asking me, what could a person ask the dispensary agent? Like something like that. You know what I mean? Like, could someone come in here and say, I'm about to make me some suppositories. What do you recommend for dry vag?
Yeah. No, we've talked about that's something that like it doesn't get talked about in the industry, I feel like, enough.
Mhm.
And like when it comes to suppositories, like it's in all of our training packets that we talk about, but like it's very rare when these conversations have come up. And
Mhm.
like I think that what you're talking about is like extremely enlightening because it's obviously what everything going on with menopause and people getting older and things like that, like that is way more of a topic of conversation that's just, I'm sorry, it's a topic that's not talked about. Because
Right.
like whenever we talk about suppositories and things like that, we're talking about people that might have like severe, like
Yeah,
really
cancer.
bad, like throat cancer or something like this, and they they can't eat or
Oh, I didn't
drink.
even think
Yeah,
about
and so like you
that.
think about the suppositories, and like that's
Wow.
always how it came up, at least in me in conversation with folks over over the years, was people that might have had throat cancer and they couldn't eat or swallow nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, smoking anything was going to be off of the table,
Right.
and they
Mm-hmm.
had like there's the like the sublingual options, which are like the drops underneath the
Drops,
tongue,
Mm-hmm.
tinctures.
which is an effective form of delivery for cannabis, but everybody's different. So
Mm-hmm.
like we've talked to folks about buying suppository capsules, and like this is more of like the rectal way, but like still
Hey.
Yeah.
like that's the way that like it was people came to us. It was the last resort, right?
Yeah.
And they had RSO and that they
Yeah,
put
the
into the
Yeah.
RSO.
suppository
That's what I was
capsules.
gonna say.
I
But I
thought
think
about
Yeah.
using that too.
but a
Yeah.
lot of like the training that like we go through with the team and things like that, that's normally like where the suppository conversation kind of comes through. But like
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that I know I've never talked about it like in this form. So like yeah, it's
Yeah.
extremely enlightening, to talk about it from the this way.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's totally more relevant, I think,
Hmm.
for a lot of folks.
well, considering that women are half of the population and everyone born with ovaries and
Yeah.
Is going
fallopian
through it,
tubes is
yeah.
going to go through menopause in some form or fashion.
And I'm over here taking notes, like.
No, exactly. But it's something that it doesn't get thought about or talked about it enough at
Hmm.
all.
At all. And even I was talking to my mom. She's eight. She just turned 85. And I was talking to her and I said, Mom, what do you know about the endocannabinoid system? She doesn't know anything about it. Nothing.
Hmm.
And so I told her, I said, you know how there are certain foods that look like the body part that it helps? Like almonds look like the brain.
Kidney beans.
If you cut a carrot, it looks like the eye pupil.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, cannabis probably looks like the endocannabinoid system.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't prove it, but I would guess it. Because it's a perfect fit,
Yeah.
right? Like God wasn't stupid. He knew women was gonna go through some stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we
No,
create life, so.
Yeah, so the cannabis was made for our bodies. It's a
Hmm.
perfect match.
it is. It is. And you're right. I think that's like the part, like you start getting really in depth and talking about the endocannabinoid system. Being downstairs, talking to folks since 2018 is when we opened up our store.
Yeah.
The first one in Linthicum. But you know, even the endocannabinoid conversation, that's it just doesn't get talked about enough because you start to get really sciencey down there, and I think you lose a lot of people like when you know what people's objectives are on the other side. I was like, hey, can you just do your best to find some products that we have here? Because most people only stand downstairs for like 20 minutes, maybe 30,
Hmm.
45. We'll always talk to folks like as long as they want to talk to us.
Hmm.
But at some point, you start to lose people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough to go like way in depth and on that next level, like taking like that
Hmm.
next step and, encouraging people to educate themselves too, right?
Right.
Like about the endocannabinoid system and everything else.
I will say that is one of my favorite things from being behind the counter is just having people come in with one mindset and one way of thinking, and then maybe they have a visitor or somebody with them just curious to see, and then they leave with like a whole new perspective on
Hmm.
how much help they can actually get from this. And it's just really nice to watch the mindset change throughout the transaction and
Right.
show them, like, actually, you have this in your body already, and all this is doing is making things less painful, more tolerable. Like,
Hmm.
it helps you be able to live your life the way that you need to, despite what's going on inside.
Well, the endocannabinoid system is fairly new in scientific circles. It was only discovered in the 90s and
Wow.
maybe a little bit before then, but that's when it really started being talked about. So when you say that to someone, they may even think you're making it up.
Right.
You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like
Well,
you're making that up
and
because you
then
want to get high.
being being a Schedule 1 drug in the Fed's eyes, this we have definitely talked about before, but like
Yeah.
there's been no way to like really heavily research any of this because of the restrictions
Absolutely.
on what we're dealing with on a daily basis. But like I said, I'll try to be encouraging, and we're hopefully turning a better corner here, and we're still
Yes.
knocking down these barriers.
We'll
Oh,
be a
I
part of the
hope.
change.
So everything we just talked about, like with research now starting to unfold. Now you're talking about as it unfolds. Now we still have to wait maybe years for like studies to unwind and get people involved in actual control groups and all these different things. Like now there's a waiting period on things like that as well. And now in the information age, people like you doing your podcast, what's the name of it?
But my vagina still works. Mental well-being and lifestyle changes. That's going to be the name of my
I
podcast.
love that.
Yeah, but
Well, it's named after my book.
there you go.
But my vagina still works. This is a menopause wellness journal. And so it's encouraging women with all of the symptoms that I went through.
Oh, it's like okay.
Yeah, it's a journal. So you get to, I talk about the symptoms that I had and the holistic things. None of this is like HRT or anything. Everything is holistic, like fetal estrogen foods. Those are foods that mimic estrogen in your body. So it's all in there, and it's a wellness journal where you can track which things work for you.
Oh, wow.
And so I found that, I don't want to ramble, but I found that it wasn't easy for me to express these things about cannabis on regular social media.
Right.
Like TikTok, I have the most followers on TikTok. I tried talking about it there. I get so many strikes.
Oh.
Like I'm on the edge
You
of
gotta
being
say
banned.
like
No,
gardening and stuff like that. Use words.
Sheryce, between like Eleanor behind the camera and like Cheyenne, like they are directly involved with all social medias. There are so many challenges
It's
and
hard.
blockades.
It's hard.
I also just think TikTok, I mean, it's from a different country and they just have a different outlook and,
Yeah.
opinion on it. So
Yeah.
it's hard
And,
to regulate.
and we're talking about everything we have here and stuff like that. Like,
Well, that's why I decided to do the podcast, because I feel like I could talk freely
Yeah.
about it on a podcast and no one could tell me shut up.
no, we wouldn't do that.
I am excited to hear your podcast though.
Yeah.
I am excited to make
But
it.
just with the information age, and like I said, as everything's unwinding with all that, like it's important for people like you and your story to like for you to stand up, and I mean it's empowering to stand up and like say like this is what's helped me, because people need to hear this,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of folks that are in the same boat as you, or the person
Absolutely.
downstairs with depression, or the person downstairs with anxiety, to hear other people speak on all these different problems, right? I mean, like it's so quick that people can like get access to your podcast, our podcast, all
Yeah.
this stuff. But
To
like,
know they're not alone, because menopause
Yeah.
can be a dark place. It
That-
can really be a dark place.
Mm.
It was for me. I suffered from depression before. So anything that you have going on prior to menopause, a magnifying glass is going to be on it in menopause. So my depression worsened to even where I felt, suicidal. And so menopause can become a very dark place and you can feel very alone. That's the other reason I decided to do this, because once I took that brownie and realized my vagina still works.
I love it.
I was like, I wanted to help other women, and that's what I set out to do. That's why I'm doing this, because I don't want other women to be alone and feel in a dark place like I did.
Yeah.
And thank you for doing that. It really makes a big difference and
Thank
a huge
you.
impact. Absolutely.
Okay.
We call ourselves the Menopause Warriors. We gather on TikTok every Sunday morning and we try to help people. And well, I met her in the live. I was doing a live. I met a young lady from New York, and I actually drove to New York and gave her one of my journals. And I introduced her to a lot of ideas about using cannabis, and it actually helps her a lot. And she suffers a lot with menopause symptoms, to the point where she's had to been hospitalized.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. you wouldn't believe some of the things that have happened to her, but when she uses cannabis, she definitely sees a difference in the severity of her symptoms.
Wow.
Good.
They still come, but they're not as frequent and not as severe. So she's on cannabis now, and it's helping her a lot.
Yeah, and you said she's from New York,
Mm-hmm.
and they've done a good job. So she's got a ton of access up there.
Yep.
Mhm.
But I mean, look, you put in that. I mean, you drove up there to give her a journal, and
That's incredible.
yeah, that's. I mean, you're
Yeah. It was
talking about
nice.
being a warrior. You know, you're definitely putting in the groundwork. That's for damn sure, no doubt about it.
Yeah, it was fun. And just to just let you know what happened, like I met her, we met at a restaurant and she had a hot flash in front of me. And she had told me that her hot flashes make her sweat like she just ran a marathon. But for me to sit there and see it actually in real time, it was unbelievable. She
Mm.
was drenched. Like she just had been outside running
Like a
and
flipping a
sat in front.
switch and then watching somebody
And
physically
she
do
reached in
that.
her bag and pulled out a big old towel and was just
Oh my gosh.
and I had hot flashes bad back in the day. They're pretty under control now. I still get them every now and then, but I never sweat like that. It was unbelievable. And this young lady cannot work because of her hot flashes.
Oh, I
Wow.
bet. I can't imagine.
Yeah, I
That's
wouldn't want to go back to work after being drenched in
well,
sweat. I would
yeah,
feel
because
so
yeah,
uncomfortable.
then you're self conscious about everything you got
Yeah.
You
going
have to
on.
have change. She had to have changes of clothes because once your clothes get drenched, you can't just sit there in wet clothes.
No, it's
Mhm.
So I know someone who is has a disability because of menopause. She can't work because of menopause symptoms.
yeah.
Wow.
Well, look, Sheryce, thank you so much, and God, you're doing such a great job. And
Mhm.
please keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Please, it's so
Absolutely.
encouraging. I mean, obviously, I'm not a woman or anything like that, but like,
But you
I
know
just
women.
yes,
And you
yes, and
can
I'm
help your women
yeah,
living in your life.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's what my husband always says. You know, men need to know this stuff too because
damn right.
every woman is going to go through it. And
Mhm.
so they
Yeah,
need to be able to understand when the women start having rage.
Yeah. I mean, even like
It's
even
not
you
you,
now.
it's the menopause.
But I mean,
now
even like
look,
menstruation and period cramps and stuff like that, that can also cause a lot of the same symptoms, not to that extreme, but
Right.
I mean, it's a little preview as to like, what's coming and just womanhood in general. So it's nice to know these things. So we
But
can
I
help.
hope that that you're not, feeling a certain way about menopause because let me just say that it is challenging, but once you come out on the other side, you
Mhm.
are fabulous.
Well,
Fabulous.
honestly, I think that this discussion today has helped me feel a lot more comfortable with what's to come. So
and that's the goal, right?
yeah,
Getting our stories out there to make people feel better about what they have going on.
I did
absolutely.
give someone some of my suppositories to try.
You did?
I
Did
did.
you get a review?
I did. I would just like to tell you what, because I was amazed at what she
Please.
said. And I felt so good that she had this
We
experience.
want to hear the uncensored version.
Yeah.
She said, that suppository was amazing. I slept the best in years. That can help with so many female issues: PCOS, fibroids, endometriosis, menstrual cramps, and of course, menopause symptoms. Amazing.
Oh wow.
Good for you.
That's very nice to hear. I love that.
Yes. And that's like I said, I put it out there for anybody to be able to do it because, people were saying, oh, you should go and put that on the market. Yes, anybody can get the ebook and make it themselves.
Good.
And then they can adjust it because I also put where you can add ingredients for pH. Like if you need to
Oh,
balance your pH. So you could put a probiotic in there.
like you did with the collagen. Okay.
See, you can tailor it to your own whatever you need.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you again so
Mhm.
much for being here today. It really
Please.
means a lot to
Thank you for having me.
the
I
whole.
appreciate that.
Everything you're doing, I mean, just please don't stop. Keep going.